My birthday is at the end of September, and for so many years of my life, my birthday was the beginning of a downward spiral towards the end of the year. It would start at my birthday, continue through October to Halloween, and then Thanksgiving, and by Christmas, I was just in survival mode, like white knuckling it through life until the new year. So desperate for the year to be over, beating myself up because the year hadn't turned out the way I wanted it to, and fully deluding myself into believing that the new year would magically fix everything and it would be a clean slate and a fresh start. Unfortunately, that isn't how this works. Life doesn't reset like a clock at midnight on January 1st. You're the same person at 11:59 p.m. as you are at 12:01. And if you're anything like I used to be, the first day of the year was spent with a massive hangover, which is definitely not a fresh start or a clean slate. But once the hangover was gone, I'd be full of hope. This is the year. This is the year I'm gonna hit six figures and pay off my debt. This is the year I'm getting in the best shape of my life. This is the year I'm gonna write my book. This is the year I meet the love of my life. This is the year. But as time went on, I'd lose steam or get distracted or feel like I was falling behind and not doing enough, and then try to play catch up. And then eventually we'd be back to September and the whole cycle starts over again. I would do this year after year after year, never actually doing the things I said I wanted to do and never actually accomplishing the goals I'd set in January, and really just struggling through life and suffering so much more than I needed to. And I have so much love and compassion for that younger version of myself, and so much love and compassion for anyone else that experiences something similar or struggles through the holidays or doesn't feel like celebrating at the end of the year, or feels like they're behind in life, or feels like they have no idea what they're doing, or that they'll never have the life they really want to have, because I have been there. So if you aren't feeling the best about life or the holidays or the new year, please know that you are definitely not alone, even though I know how lonely it can feel to be in that space. And I also want you to know that it can and does get better. I can honestly say that now, every single year, it gets better than the last. And I wanted to share two simple things. Simple, not easy, but two simple things I've done to make that possible. And to be very honest with you, there's definitely more than two things, but looking back, these are the two things that have probably had the biggest impact on how I experience the end of one year and the beginning of another, and how each year gets better than the last. The first thing I did is I stopped making such a huge deal of the new year. It's been years since I went out to celebrate New Year's Eve. That means no hangover on January 1st, which is a much better way to start a new year, or a much better way to start any day, really. But this is really about no longer buying into the illusion that January 1st is somehow radically different than the day before it. I stopped believing that there was something magical happening at the stroke of midnight on December 31st. And while there can definitely be value to using milestones and special dates and being strategic about when we set out to make a change in our lives, I've also found that there is zero benefit in pretending that time and life isn't just one long continuous thing. It's a trap to think that you have to wait even one more minute to decide that you want to experience something different in your life. It's a trap to think that you have to wait until the new year or next month or Monday or whenever to start taking action towards what you want. Now I understand that there's no magic in the transition from one year to the next. There's no beginning and no end. It's a continual evolution. There's no major reflection or evaluation for me to do at the end of the year because now that's something I'm doing all the time. There doesn't need to be a huge celebration because I'm celebrating little wins and I'm celebrating life all along the way. There's no waiting around for a fresh start or a clean slate. I get to decide when I take action on something, and I take radical responsibility for the results that I get in my life. That doesn't always mean it's easy to take action or make changes. Life can still get in the way, and I still have my blind spots just like anybody else. And there's so much in life that we can't control, but we get to decide how we respond to all of it. Something a coach once said to me that was a complete game changer was, you don't always have control, but you always have power. That's something I didn't really understand back when the last quarter of every year was something I felt like I just had to get through to get to the new year, to get to my fresh start. Now I understand that continuum of time and life, and I recognize my own personal power and take responsibility to make a new decision or take a different action when the time is right for me to do that. It doesn't matter where we are on the calendar. The second thing I did was I started setting standards instead of setting resolutions. One thing I had to learn over and over again is that traditional goal setting doesn't really work for me. It doesn't make me feel good, and in most cases, it made me feel bad when I couldn't or didn't reach a goal that I had set. And honestly, it just became ammunition for me to use against myself. Another thing I've had to learn the hard way is that you don't get what you deserve, you get what you accept, and you get what you tolerate. And when we add in that radical responsibility and that personal power I just mentioned, that means if there's an area of my life that I don't like or I don't feel good about, I'm the only one responsible for that. That's on me. I'm the one allowing those things in my life. And the only solution is to raise the standard for what I will accept and what I will tolerate in my life. Raising standards is different from setting goals. It's not really about what you want to do or things you want to accomplish. It's about how you want to feel about yourself and how you want to feel about your life. It's staying present and paying close attention to what's working and what's not, and what makes you feel good and what doesn't make you feel good in real time, day to day, even moment to moment sometimes. Raising standards also works so much better for me than setting goals because it flows so much better with that continuum of life and with the continual evolution of who we are. It allows for much more space and flexibility and compassion in my life, whereas goal setting was always very restrictive and rigid. Raising standards removes the need to accomplish something in a specific time frame, and then you don't have to feel like a failure when it doesn't happen. It doesn't require you to do a complete 180 or force yourself into action or even to make any major changes. Raising standards just requires an understanding that there's no end to becoming that better version of yourself and having patience and compassion for yourself along that journey. It's holding that vision of your higher self and staying curious about what they would do and how they would respond and what actions they would take, and then slowly embodying that person more and more in small ways over time that add up to the results and the life that you really want. A personal example of this is I was pretty much single my whole life. I didn't meet the love of my life until I was 36 years old. And a big reason for that is because my standards in that area were not a match for what I actually wanted. I had to get curious about what would a person who is in the relationship I desire to be in, how would they behave? What would they do in this situation? How would they respond? would a person in a loving, conscious relationship accept this behavior, or would they even experience this? And then slowly over time, I started to embody that person and raise my standards for what I wanted and what I would tolerate from men when it came to dating and communication, and how I felt around a man and how I felt when I wasn't around that man. Once my standards were aligned with what I really wanted, that's when I met Johnny and was able to experience that relationship I wanted in real life. This has also happened in my work life and my business, being underpaid or letting clients walk all over me, or even back in the day, staying in a job that made me miserable. I had to raise my standards for who I would work with and what I would accept in this area of my life in order to create a business that I love and feel good about and gives me more free time and more financial freedom. It's happened with my relationship to myself and to my body and my health, where I've raised the standard for how I treat myself and take care of myself and how I speak to myself. Raising my standards has literally changed every single area of my life. Instead of feeling like life is just something that's happening to me or around me like I used to feel, it allows me to be more intentional about my life. And I'm able to consistently practice using that personal power that we all have to create the life that we want. I get to slowly over time become the next highest version of myself. So if setting goals doesn't work for you either, or if you always feel so much pressure this time of year, I hope this is something that you can try on instead and see how it goes for you. Even if you do like to set goals, raising your standards can only help you to get there faster. And like I've said, raising your standards is not always easy, and it might not always be a smooth transition into the next level, but I found it really is the path to living the life that you want to live and actually getting the things that you want. No one ever regrets raising the bar.